Hey, Rooted and Bold family. I trust that you're well today. I'm excited to speak to you regarding a guy by the name of Shamgar. Now, we see that in Judges 3, verse 31, it says, After Ehud, Shamgar, son of Anas, became a judge. It goes on further to say that he also delivered the Israelites by conquering them with a cattle prod. Now, he didn't just kill one Philistine, he conquered 600 Philistines all on his own with a mere cattle prod. And so we see that just before this is at a time where a new future generation is being raised up within Israel. We see that the old generation has passed away and there's a new generation that is being raised up within Israel. And so the Lord tests Israel, tests now this new generation, whether they can actually go into battle, whether they can go into war. And so we see that this new generation witnessed their forefathers going through battles, being victorious in wars. And now we have this new, inexperienced nation that is going to take the Israelites forward. And so we see that the Lord puts them to the test, and shortly thereafter they fail. So they fail because they partaking in idols, they partaking in Baals, they're taking part in Asherahs. And so we see that the Lord is not happy with them. And so the Lord raises two judges prior to Shamgar, the one being by the name of Othniel and the other being by the name of Ehud. And so they're victorious in their assignment, but we see that this new generation is just rebellious in their ways. And so if we go to verse 31, now we see that after Ehud, Shamgar is now raised up. He becomes a judge, and then he delivers the Israelites from the Philistines by killing 600 Philistines with a cattle prod. Now if we look at Shamgar, we see that prior to Judges 3, Shamgar is not mentioned anywhere prior to that. And this tells me that Shamgar was not significant in any way. He didn't grow up in a prestigious family that had a strong lineage background. He didn't come from a family of wealth. He wasn't well known. The Bible says that he conquered 600 Philistines with a cattle prod, which makes me believe that Shamgar was just an ordinary farmer. He was just going about his ordinary business, tending to the cattle and following through with his daily duties. And so one day God deems it right that Shamgar is raised up as a judge. Shamgar is now able to conquer 600 Philistines with a cattle prod. And so we see that for one guy to conquer 600 Philistines is a real miracle. It's testament to the real power and awesomeness of God, because we see that the Philistines at that time were really strong. They knew how to go into war, they knew how to fight battles, and they were a clever people. And so for God to raise up a guy who had no prior history to going into battle, who used a mere cattle prod to conquer 600 Philistines, is a real miracle. And we see that it's interesting that Shamgar uses a cattle prod. Now I believe that Shamgar could have had an attitude of, Lord, you want me to go fight 600 Philistines and all I have is a cattle prod? I believe he could have gone that way. But instead Shamgar had a mindset of, the Lord has given me the assignment, the Lord has placed a cattle prod within my hand, and this is all I'm going to be able to use right now to fulfill the assignment. But I'm going to go out there in faith. I'm going to follow the call of God, and I believe that He will give me the victory. And so I believe that this is the heart posture that Shamgar had. Now, I for one moment don't doubt that he must have been somewhat afraid. He must have thought, God, all I have is a cattle prod. Now, a cattle prod is a mere long stick with a sharp edge. And so the cattle prod in those times were used to poke the animal or animals in the direction in whichever way the shepherd wanted these animals to go into. And so we see that he used this as a tool, and using his faith in God, God was able to use him in a way that he was able to conquer 600 Philistines. And so what I really want to leave to you today is to say that, what has God placed inside of your hand? What do you think, whatever you possess inside of you, do you think that that's insignificant? Do you think that God cannot use that? And so today I want to challenge you to say that whatever God has placed inside of you is valuable, is precious. Sometimes we tend to pray to God, and we ask God for certain things, and we ask God for certain abilities and capabilities. Meanwhile, God has already placed that within inside of us. We see that, like Shamgar, all he had was a cattle prod. All he needed was to be obedient and to have faith in the Lord, knowing that He's the one that gave me the instruction, and He's the one that will, through His grace, empower him to fulfill the assignment that God has placed upon his life. And so, like Shamgar, he used a mere cattle prod, but God used him mightily to conquer 600 Philistines. And so, just in the same way, as we find ourselves in that, many a times we possess so much valuable things inside of us, because the Bible says that God knew us before we were formed in our mother's womb, meaning that He knows our life from the start till the end. And so He has already placed inside of you certain gifts, certain talents, certain abilities that will allow you to be conquered, will allow you to be victorious rather, in every area of your life. And so I believe that that what you have inside of you is not insignificant, that God want to use whatever you have inside of you. And so I want to challenge you today that as you pray to God, as you ask God to reveal to you, what is He placed inside of me that is unique, that is special, that will allow me to fulfill my duties here on earth. And I believe that if we have the right heart and we have the right mentality concerning this, then God is able to use what is placed inside of us. And so I trust that you'll be blessed today. I trust that this message will bring you closer to God, and that you'll have an awesome day further. Till next time, goodbye.